This morning on Truth Social, there have been many posts about Jeffrey Epstein and what he is now deeming the Epstein hoax. He's saying he wants the Department of Justice to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's relationships with Democrats, Larry Summers, J.P. Morgan Chase, Bill Clinton. He's lashed out at Republicans for continuing to focus on this. What is your, I hesitate to ask you to get inside the man's head, but get inside his head. What is going on? Do you think?
I really don't want to.
Okay. Well, what is, as you observe this, you're an interested party here. What is your take on how this is playing out and why he's acting in incredibly guilty fashion?
Well, he is in daily panic mode as we get closer to the moment where these files and the fullest truth that we have available to us is going to be made public. And it is clearly the biggest scandal in presidential history. And he wouldn't be acting this way if he wasn't so deeply worried about what sits in those files. What we've already seen is immensely incriminating. Clearly, Donald Trump was at the center of a child sex ring. That is heartbreaking that the President of the United States was involved in that kind of gross, craven immorality. And it stands to reason that he wouldn't be fighting so hard to spin against this story or bullying Republicans in the House to prevent the release of these files if there wasn't something especially and specifically incriminating in that information. Now, I think the scandal in and of itself could bring him down, but we also do have to contextualize it, because what Donald Trump is all about is protecting the rich and powerful and stealing from normal people, regular middle class and poor folks, in order to enrich the rich and powerful. And this is very much part of that story. Yes, I am sure that there are both Republicans and Democrats named in those files. There are powerful people on both sides of the aisle, but what Trump is all about is, not really playing a game based on politics, but playing a game based on wealth and influence. If you have wealth and influence, Donald Trump is going to protect you, and that is consistent through everything he has done during the first 9 months of this administration.
So, as I understand it, the House will vote next week on the release of the files, because the discharge petition, I'm not trying to get too in the weeds here, but they are going to have a vote next week on the release of the files, and it's widely expected that it will pass. And at that point, it does go to the Senate. What are your expectations for a vote in your chamber on that specific issue?
Well, the Senate has, essentially been, out of the loop. There's been very little, almost no pressure on Senate leadership, Republicans, because of what's been happening in the House of Representatives. But 6 months ago, you would have thought there was no shot that the House of Representatives would vote in what is likely to be a pretty big bipartisan vote. They only got 3 or 4 Republicans to sign the discharge petition, but they may get dozens and dozens of Republicans to actually vote for the bill when it comes before the House for a full vote. You wouldn't have thought that that was possible, but the daily pressure campaign on Republicans over the course of the last several months caused them to finally force this vote, and will cause many of them to vote for it. So yes, today you'd say, is John Thune really going to bring this bill voluntarily before the Senate for a vote as an additional means of embarrassing the president? That doesn't sound likely today. But after weeks and months of public pressure, after more drip, drip, drip release of information about how deeply Trump was intertwined in this scandal, I think the reality will look very different. And it may be that John Thune decides, I think it's very likely that John Thune decides that his members cannot survive if they don't go on record and vote to release these files.
You can clap, it's fine, don't worry.
But that's incumbent upon us to build that. That's incumbent upon us to build that pressure, as folks built that pressure in the House of Representatives. It probably will require 1 or 2 Republicans in the Senate early on to say what the right thing to do is here. But I don't think it's inevitable that we won't get that vote in the Senate.